నమస్కారం. డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ సార్వత్రిక విశ్వవిద్యాలయ విద్యార్థులకు స్వాగతం.
Hello viewers, today's session is on management by objectives. Under this topic, I am going to explain you what is meant by management by objectives, what is the process involved in it, what are the key concepts in management by objectives, what are the advantages and also limitations. Before explaining all these things, let me briefly explain you what is meant by the term objective at all. Every organization has certain objectives. Maybe earning profit is the main objective behind the establishment of any commercial or business or service organization, whereas rendering some service to the society may be the objective behind the establishment of a non-profit or not-for-profit organization. Suppose a charitable trust established a school. The main objective behind the establishment of the school is providing educational facility to the needy people in the society. Sometimes the organizations may have even multiple objectives. That is, okay, profitability is one of the main objective, then productivity, what should be the level of production, expansion in the market, how to expand the organization, how to diversify it, how to develop employees in future, how to develop management in future, corporate social responsibility, how to discharge this corporate social responsibility, how to build the morale of the employees, like all these things, innovation, how to develop the product line. These are some of the examples for the objectives. Thus, the organizations may have, instead of single objective, they may have multiple objectives. What is meant by the term objective? According to McFarland, objectives are the goals, aims or purposes that organizations wish to achieve over varying periods of time. According to Kuhns and O'Donnell, objective is a term commonly used to indicate the end point of a management program. Objectives are the basic tools that underlie all planning and strategic activities. Objectives are the base to decide the planning of an organization, what actually the organization want to achieve in future. If it is clear what you want to achieve is clear, then all other activities can be planned in a very systematic and strategic way. Evaluation of performance is also easy if the planning is clear, because you know what you want to achieve. Then you know how to proceed to achieve your objectives or goals. Then controlling also become easy, whether everything is moving in proper direction or not, or whether any deviation, if any deviation is there, what is the reason for this deviation, and taking corrective measures. So, for doing all these things, objective is base. So, there should be clarity in fixing the objectives of the organization. Traditionally, you know that setting of objectives is the responsibility of the top management, that is the board of directors and the chief executive of the organization. They sit together, they discuss and decide the objectives of the organization. These objectives are normally long term focused, in coming 5 years or coming 10 years, how actually they want to take the organization forward into future. Then these objectives, these are technically known as corporate objectives. These corporate objectives will be communicated to the divisional heads. Okay, these are the long term objectives set for the next 5 years or 10 years. They will be communicated to the divisional heads. You know that every organization has certain divisions. Suppose take for example a manufacturing organization, it may have production division, marketing division, HR division, finance division, research and design, research and development division, like that. So, these corporate objectives will be communicated to these divisional heads. Then the divisional heads, they plan the short term, they decide the short term objectives. Okay, in 5 years, this is the objective set. In coming 1 year, what are the activities to be taken up to achieve this long term objective. They decide, they work on these short term objectives, and they communicate these short-term objectives to their section heads. Again, so for example, take a production division. There may be separate departments or sections in production division, maybe purchase department, production process department, stores department, like this, maintenance department. So they communicate these short-term objectives to these section heads or the department heads. Then they communicate, they again, depending on these short-term objectives, they plan the day-to-day activities, the routine activities. Okay, coming 1 month, what they have to do, coming 15 days, what they have to do, and they communicate the same to the first level managers or the team which are actually responsible to achieve these objectives. If you observe this entire process, there is no involvement of the subordinate or the person who is really responsible to achieve the objectives in decision making process. The decision is taken by the top management, and that will be communicated to the next one and next one and next one. That's it. There is no involvement or commitment of the persons who are really responsible to do the work. In such a situation, because the persons who are responsible to do the work, they may face certain difficulties. Sometimes the objectives may be fixed at a very high level which is not possible to achieve, or sometimes they may have to face some practical issues. So all these things have to be taken care of while fixing the objectives. So if the person who is responsible, if the individual, if the manager who is responsible to achieve the objectives is involved in the decision making process, then automatically there will be commitment on the part of that person, because he is involved in the decision making process. He agreed that okay, I do this work, I achieve this objective in coming 1 month or 15 days or 1 year or 2 years. So if commitment is there, then accountability and responsibility also can be fixed. The employee is very clear what the organization is expected from him, and he himself can motivate, that is self motivation is also possible. So the manager, the superior and the subordinate at different levels, maybe at the top level or at the middle level or at the first level, they have to sit together, discuss and finalize the objectives of the organization. Then there will be commitment on the part of the employees. Cooperation of the employees is also easy, and coordinating the activities is also easy. This is what is known as joint and participative setting up of objectives. This type of joint and participative setting of objectives is precisely what is known as management by objectives. Traditional way, the top management will decide the objectives and just communicate the same to the down the level of the organization, whereas under management by objectives, superior and the subordinate working at different levels, they sit together and decide this is the objective for coming 5 years or coming 2 years or 3 years or 1 year or whatever it is. This concept of management by objective is both a philosophy and a technique of management. Who introduced this concept? It is Peter F. Drucker, the father of modern management. Even though Peter F. Drucker introduced this concept, designed this concept in 1954, this concept was popularized by Douglas McGregor, another management and OB expert. The concept of MBO is also known as management by results, work planning and review, and accountability management. There are different ways of calling the same concept management by objectives. What is the exact definition of the concept management by objectives? According to George Odion, MBO is a system wherein the superior and the subordinate managers of an organization jointly identify common goals, define each individual's major areas of responsibility in terms of results expected of him, and use these measures as guides for operating the unit and assessing the contribution of each of its members. You can also see the definition given by John W. Humble. Another comprehensive definition for the concept MBO is given by Coons and O'Donnell. According to Coons and O'Donnell, MBO is a comprehensive managerial system that integrates many key managerial activities in a systematic manner, consciously directed towards the effective and efficient achievement of organizational and individual objectives. What are the main objectives of MBO? Coming to the next important aspect, that is the process of MBO. How actually MBO has to be implemented in an organization. There are totally 5 stages. The first stage is setting of organizational objectives. Here the entire process of MBO revolves around setting up of goals of an organization. Goals of at corporate level, at divisional level, at departmental level or section level. The overall and detailed assessment has to be made. First of all, before setting the objectives, what are the resources available to the organization? Market survey has to be conducted. What are the goods and services which are in demand right now in society? Then the demand assessment has to be made. What may be the demand for the product or service? What is the position of the competitors? How many players are there in the market? Now the overall objectives of the organization, that is the corporate objectives, have to be decided. They have to be decided in a smart way. Smart means the organization has to be decided in specific, measurable, attainable, reasonable and timely. So these are the main qualities of objectives. So the objectives have to be decided, and as I said earlier, for all important areas, maybe productivity, profitability, innovation, corporate social responsibility, like that. After deciding the objectives, then cascading objectives to employees is the next stage in MBO. All these corporate objectives will be communicated to the next level, that is the divisional levels heads. The division level heads, they sit with their department heads or section heads and decide about what are the objectives for the coming 1 year or 2 years, like that. While taking all these decisions, the key result areas have also to be identified, because to decide a particular task, there may be some important activities which must be fulfilled, and there may be some other activities, maybe less important activities. So first of all, what are the key result activities? They have to be identified. What are the short-term priorities? What are the long-term priorities? Also need to be identified, because some issues have to be attended immediately and some issues can be postponed later. So what are the short-term priorities? What are the long-term priorities? Sometimes to complete a task, the individual may need some help or support from the peers or superiors or subordinates. So what sort of help or support is required? What sort of information is required by the individual who is responsible to discharge the work? What are the standards to review the performance, because achieving targets 100% every time may not be possible. So what are the standard? 80% or 90% if the employee achieved, okay, is that okay? So fixing the standards and establishing checkpoints. How frequently the performance of the employee has to be reviewed? Is it once in every 15 days or once in every month or once in 3 months or once in a year? So checkpoints also should be established. So under this second one, cascading the objectives, all these things have to be taken care of. You can see the slide here, cascading the objectives of the organization, corporate objectives, then division objectives, then unit or section objectives, like that. The third stage is monitoring the performance. The manager, after entrusting the job, then the manager has to delegate a part of the authority if required. You entrusted some work to the employee, your subordinate. So to complete the task, he may want some authority also. So delegate the authority and monitor his performance, whether he is moving in proper direction or not. Monitoring performance is also important. The fourth stage is evaluating the performance. So now the performance of the individual has to be evaluated at identified periodic intervals. At second stage, the checkpoints are established. How frequently the performance has to be evaluated. So now at this stage, the manager, the superior, has to evaluate the performance against the standards set. Individuals should be encouraged to go for self-appraisal also, because your superior need not appraise you every time. You know what actually the organization is expected from you. So you yourself can appraise your own performance, whether I am moving in the right direction or not. If you have any problem, you yourself can bring that problem to the notice of your boss. So individuals shall be encouraged to go for self-appraisal, and corrective action shall be taken immediately if required. If anything went wrong, corrective action should be taken immediately. and individuals should be guided to improve the performance. And the last stage in MBO process is reward performance. In order to motivate the employees, the organization has to reward the employees who attain their targets. If any employee is not in a position to complete the task, achieve the standard, then again what the reason for the non-achievement of the standard has to be found out, and proper support has to be extended to the employee to complete the task at least next time. What are the key concepts in MBO? Now you know what is the basic process of MBO. What are the key concepts involved in MBO? Emphasis on results rather than activities. The organization don't bother actually what are the activities, how you completed the task, whether you achieved the result or not. That is the main important concept, achievement of the result. Objectives for specific managerial positions is the second concept. Objectives have to be fixed not for the individuals but for the managerial positions. Suppose you are heading the production division. Objective has to be fixed for the production division head but not for X or Y or Z who is heading that production division. Joint and participatory setting of objectives is next important concept. Objectives, unlike traditional system, they will be fixed by somebody else and just informed to next down the level of the organization. Always it should be a joint and participatory. Both the superior and the subordinate, they have to sit together, discuss and finalize. These are the objectives. Identification of key result areas. As I said that some concentration has to be paid on some most important areas. So organization has to identify what are these key result areas so that maximum attention has to be paid on these key result areas. And establishment of periodic review system. How frequently the performance has to be reviewed. Of course, it depends on the nature of the activity and also depends on the level at which the employee is working, whether at the first level or middle level or at the top level. What are the main advantages of MBO? How MBO is going to help an organization? MBO is going to help not only the organization but also to the superior and also to the subordinate. First, let us start with subordinates. What are the advantages a subordinate gets out of MBO? First of all, there is clarity in role. The employee very clearly know what the organization is expected from him. Helps the employee to do self-appraisal. If you achieve a specific task, that gives lot of satisfaction to the employee. So job satisfaction is another advantage of MBO, and provides scope and opportunity for the employees to prove his capacities. I can prove I did this work, I can prove my capacities and I can prove my capabilities, and this also give a scope for the career planning of an employee. Coming to superiors, how MBO help the superiors? In addition to all the advantages which is a subordinate get, additional advantages of MBO to a superior are, this can be used as a technique to motivate the subordinates. So if you achieve this one, okay, the organization can give some sort of reward or some other benefit. So it can be used as a technique of motivation. It will strengthen superior subordinate relationship because continuously, as I said, the superiors and subordinates sit together and discuss. So if any blocks are there, if any difference of opinions are there, they can be cleared, and that can strengthen the superior subordinate relationship. And it also gives for objective performance appraisal without any bias, because the standard is fixed. The manager has to appraise the performance of an employee against the standard only. So without any personal bias, the performance of the employee can be assessed. What are the benefits MBO can give to the organization? MBO has certain limitations also. Number one is, because of the superior subordinate relationship, sometimes the employees, the subordinates may not be in a position to express their opinion freely. We may say that it will clear all the obstacles sometimes, but the employee may hesitate, the subordinate may hesitate. And hesitation on the part of the superiors. Under this process, MBO, superior and the subordinate, they have to sit frequently, discuss and put everything on paper. This is how we have to do. So actually, lot of time of the subordinate superior has to be spent on planning and designing the activities. So there may be hesitation on the part of the superior. It's not too very different from the traditional way of setting objectives. Here also only the top management, and that is the board of directors and their team, they are sitting and discussing these are the objectives and they are communicating to the next level. And here the next level manager with their subordinates, they are sitting and discussing, okay, this is the objectives. But actually it is only here also it is top to bottom approach, but not bottom to top approach. And there may be resistance on the part of the employees, which is another limitation, because it is time bound. Within the specific time you have to achieve the target. So sometimes there may be resistance on the part of the employees. And if you want to implement MBO, lot of flexibility is required in the organization, because continuously the performance has to be monitored, and if anything went wrong, again immediately that corrective action has to be taken, and sometimes if it is required, the objectives of the organization also need to be changed. So it requires lot of flexibility. And sometimes, because here the focus is more on short-term objectives, so the focus on long-term objectives may be missed. And here under MBO, everything will be expressed in quantitative terms. So sometimes the qualitative objectives like the corporate social responsibility, morale of the employees may also be missed. And due to lack of proper understanding, the management may not get cooperation from the employees for implementing MBO. Then how to implement MBO? First of all, there should be commitment on the part of the organization. The top management have to take a decision that if you are to implement MBO, it has to go ahead with it. Proper training has to be provided to both superiors and subordinates. So this is how the objectives have to be decided. Awareness has to be created among all employees. These are the advantages of implementing MBO to the superior, to the subordinate, and also to the organization. And sufficient time has to be allowed to give the result. Studies proved that minimum 3 to 5 years time is required after implementing the concept of MBO to get the expected result. So sufficient time has to be allowed, and employees have to be motivated, they should be rewarded, and the necessary support and also resources have to be provided. You just make the employees to fix the employees to achieve something. So the organization has to provide necessary support and authority, everything to achieve the tasks. So MBO, as I said, is a comprehensive system and technique which is applied in planning, evaluating and controlling. It is a goal-oriented approach. The success of the concept depends to a large extent, on one hand, on the acceptance of the employees to implement it in the organization, and on the other hand, how clearly the objectives are spelled out.
మా కార్యక్రమాలపై మీ సూచనలు సలహాలు తెలియచేయండి. మీ సూచనలు సలహాలు తెలియచేయవలసిన చిరునామా: డైరెక్టర్, ఆడియో విజువల్ ప్రొడక్షన్ అండ్ రీసెర్చ్ సెంటర్, డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ ఓపెన్ యూనివర్సిటీ, ప్రొఫెసర్ జి రామరెడ్డి మార్గ్, రోడ్ నంబర్ 46, జూబ్లీ హిల్స్, హైదరాబాద్ 500033.